The bachi-bachi style of Japanese wrestling has seen a resurgence in popularity amongst the internet wrestling fandom recently, no doubt spurred on by excellent video essays from the likes of my contemporaries Andos and Four Pillars. As you probably know, this punishing flavor of wrestling was the house blend for the promotion's Battle Arts and Futen, and is generally considered one of the most insanely violent and risky brands of wrestling out there, with insane amounts of shoot headbutts, strikes to the back of the head, and other assorted variables in the Benoit kill your family algebraic formula. It's a really interesting style because it uses the aesthetics of shoot style, if that makes any sense, all the while not really following the structure or ethos of that kind of wrestling in spirit. Even though the architects of bachi-bachi, Yuki Ishikawa and Daisuke Ikeda, were trained under shoot-style visionaries and real fighters like Yoshiaki Fujiwara, they focused less on the realism of any hold or strike being able to conceivably get a quick finish like in a shoot fight, and instead decided to reenact late Showa-era Godzilla movies, but with real brain damage instead of the rubber suits. Bachi-bachi falls far more into the King's Road anime rules of escalation, all the while using shoot MMA holds and strikes to present a theater of violence unseen anywhere else. Unfortunately, as this style was largely the product of a very small list of demented grappling alchemists, like the aforementioned Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi alumni as well as the weirdo himself, Alexander Otsuka. I say this lovingly, please don't kill me, Mr. Otsuka. It has had much less staying power in wrestling at large, as both major bachi-bachi promotions have long since folded. It was niche to begin with, and while people like my colleagues and I will sing the praises of the style, as well as wrestlers like Timothy Thatcher, nobody today is putting on full-blown bachi-bachi shows. Well, almost nobody. Fuminori Abe and Takuya Nomura, collectively known as the Astronauts, are one of, if not the best, tag teams in the world. Both are in some ways a product of the legacy of bachi-bachi to some extent, and even more so shoot style at large. Abe was trained by Munori Sawa, who himself was a student of none other than Ishikawa. He's a tad goofy at times because of his comedy wrestling lineage through Sawa, but more than makes up for that in brutality, with the silliness turning from seemingly lighthearted to straight up sadistic as the matches start to intensify. Nomura is much more of the straight man in this pairing, honing his craft under the tutelage of the human windmill Hideki Suzuki and adopting some of his catch-as-catch-can stylings. He can still straight up brawl, and more than reciprocate the intensity of his partner. Together they form a pair not unlike Yuki Ishikawa and Daisuke Ikeda themselves, one person who carries himself like a crazed brawler despite his technical ability, and the other who seems to emulate an older vision of shoot wrestlers in pro res. That being said, they still both very much love bachi-bachi, and it was never more apparent than when we got KT's on We Are the Fighting Detectives show last year, a tribute to fighting investigation team Battle Arts, if that wasn't blatantly obvious. With even Ishikawa and Ikeda present, facing each other in tag action in the co-main event of the show, it was time for them to show their full potential in a style that had fallen by the wayside, just to prove that it was possible. They were made for this, for each other. As aforementioned, this match takes place just after their idols had done their regularly scheduled ass beating of each other. No doubt it filled our two combatants with even more fire than they had previously, which was already more than enough considering the passion and drive of these two warriors. As a note, this match is only to end in knockout or submission, as is proper of a match in the Bachi Bachi lineage. They fist bump and high five in short succession, which is exactly how people start submission grappling rolls in every gym I've been in, which I find sweet, and even just that elicits cheers from the audience as they return to their corners. The crowd is particularly good throughout, and for some reason I can't quite figure out, is filled with a disproportionate amount of elderly women. Japanese grandmas no ball, I guess? After a feeling out session that borders on silly, Abe starts swiping at his comrade, before turning the tie-up into a beautiful Seonage straight into a scarf hold on the ground. Nomura reverses him quickly, and as the better grappler he does this often throughout the match, with Abe more so using strikes or just straight up meanness to get his way on the mat in a very Giant Baba core fashion. Fuminori is incredibly expressive as he gets a head scissors reversed on him, and with a lot of desperation even this early, he tries to get back to his feet. Briefly getting back up before immediately being dragged down on the mat, Abe commits the first of a series of disgusting actions by biting Nomura in the nipple, what the fuck, to try and escape. If you thought this was in any way going to resemble a normal fight, I apologize. A scramble ensues, and the brawling striking battle properly begins, with it briefly interrupted by a snapmare and north-south choke attempt before returning, and Dios mio, these men are out for blood, quite literally as we'll see in a bit. Sick of his partner's meanness, the usually less impulsive Nomura kicks the shit out of Abe, beating him out of the ring, and then again when he re-enters. Abe's ill-fated leg lock ends in something gross once again, as upon being reversed into a heel hook, he thwarts the submission by committing what we in the amateur wrestling community call an oil check, and grabbing the ropes. Sincerely, what the fuck, Abe? But as I suppose there's no express rule that gouging your finger into the ass crack of your opponent is expressly illegal, I guess he gets by on the airbud rule. It's then we get the first of many sickening headbutts to follow. Abe has a really distinctive way of throwing this, as rather than pulling back his head and then thrusting it, he just pushes it forward and uses his head like a Pachycephalosaurus and just runs through his friend. Some kicks and more submission attempts are fired back in retaliation, and then Nomura starts entering an ill-advised firefight with Abe, who performs a beautiful spinning body kick. What follows is a solid minute of straight-up curb stomping, until Nomura hits a slick exploder suplex, goes for a choke, and finally a chicken wing. Reiterating the continuing theme of Abe being a dick, he only escapes by pulling on the hair of Takuya before scampering to the ropes. A reversal of head trauma-based fortunes follows, with Nomura absolutely lighting his partner up, with palm strikes, elbows, and kicks against the corner. Abe responds with a closed-fisted punch, but is continually beaten back into the corner by Nomura, looking like a semi-realistic imitation of when an MMA fighter is hunting for a knockout against the cage. Still seemingly half unconscious, a desperate punch from Abe is slipped beautifully by Nomura, who puts him in a full Nelson and then a face lock. Abe is able to slip out, and then bang. It's at this point we've exited any semblance of sport, and Abe knows it's his only path to victory, or in the words of Joe Rogan describing the fighting style of Michael Chandler, taking this from a skills-based bout into an explosion contest. This explosion competition only seems to strengthen Abe, and he walks through the barrage launched by Nomura like CM Punk towards a group of NXT women. This is compounded by an absolutely amazing dropkick from Abe, who puts so much torque into the flying attack that he literally does a roughly 270-degree turn in midair, landing like a face bump before popping up triumphantly. This berserker rage of Abe is cut off when an attempt to finish it once and for all with his absolutely awesome-looking fastball punch is countered with a mere slap by Nomura, which I find to be lovely as he's finally giving up sport in lieu of blatant brutality. After a suplex, Abe does successfully get off the punch, but seems weakened from the strike and the slam that he's just eaten. As we enter the final innings of the fight, that sort of impression of fatigue mixed in with battle damage is lovely, as instead of a traditional finishing stretch, we're used to where finishers are traded ad nauseum, full of no selling. Instead, moves that wouldn't normally elicit a long sell appear to be more brutal to the already damaged fighters. Nomura then gives Abe his just desserts, doing a headbutt exactly like his partner. And while Abe gets up first and delivers a return shot, blood starts trickling from his forehead, and the true peak of the match occurs. The two combatants, both brought to their knees in pain and fatigue, do nothing but headbutt each other back and forth. It's not clever, it's not pretty, and it's not safe, but it's real. Realer than almost any spot you've seen in a good long time. This clobbering takes an insane toll on both. Abe falling onto his side and continuing to gush blood, and Nomura clutching his hand, likely feeling a stinger from the head trauma. But it's ultimately Takuya who proves to be more durable, mounting Abe and raining down blows. Finally, a mixture of exhaustion in Nomura and the strength of Abe move him off, and we enter the last standing bomb fest of the match. Just going spot for spot doesn't properly convey the intensity, but in short, Abe goes for the KO, and Nomura barely survives with some submission work. That work seems like it's close to coming to fruition with a half crab, but then, instead of going to the ropes and standing up to trade shots like he has previously, Abe does something unexpected. He sees the ropes, but realizing he might not make it before being submitted, rolls and goes for a heel hook. Nomura tries to pummel him in order to release the hold, but the chin of Abe holds up and is forced to tap. After a lengthy recovery period, the two men show their love for each other and for their art. This night was a triumph, and while they couldn't possibly know how much this would blow up online, that doesn't matter to them at this moment. They put on the match for the simple pleasure of bringing something beautiful into existence that didn't previously. They did it for Ishikawa and Ikeda, for themselves, for their fans, and for the love of the game. While no words in the English language, or any language for that matter, could really explain the emotions conveyed in this match, other than just bleed, I'll take my crack at it. Whereas its more bookish, girl-next-door sibling shoot style seeks to say something about the interaction of tactics, adaptation, and grit in a fight, Bachi Bachi is tapping into something more primal. It's looking at where fighting spirit meets the physical limitations of a man. Whether someone running on fumes and pure, uncut black tar enoki fun juice alone can beat someone with an actual strategy. This match answers it to an extent, as while it's initially Abe who wants to just bleed, and Nomura who wants to wrestle, the heart and straight-up God-given Max Holloway-like durability of Nomura means that Abe has to switch lanes at the very last second. While Nomura does lose, it's somewhat of a moral victory for him. As cheesy as it sounds, and is to some extent, he beat Abe at his own game. That being said, it doesn't cheapen the victory either, as widening his knockout-chasing tunnel vision was also a win for Abe, and primarily a win against himself and his own instincts as a fighter. In that split second in which he applied the heel hook, he went from a warrior to a sportsman, accidentally luring Nomura over the same testosterone-fueled precipice that he nearly went over himself. In short, it's this magical, violent, concentrated blast of everything beautiful about wrestling as a strange, brutal, and transgressive art form that it is. All hail the astronauts, the successors to their idols in battle arts, and arguably two of the best workers in Japan, if not the entire fucking world. Until next time, I'm Squill, and if you don't donate to my Ko-fi, which is linked below, a giant psychic praying mantis that's already puppeteering your life from the shadows will emerge and claim your skin. Bye.